Hey guys, it's Puff Guy. Today we'll be doing a video and a review of how well the AGM sten Mark II gearbox is. So first of all, what you want to do is you want to take apart your gun until you get to the gearbox. Second of all, you want to take these two screws out. One right here and one right here, which attaches your motor and all your wiring that attaches to your trigger. Once you take these two screws off, you can just take this out. Your next procedure is to take apart the gearbox. What you want to do is you want to take all of the screws out. There'll be about 3 to 4 screws. About one here, one here, one here. Then you want to take the plate off, which is up top. All you have to do is slide it off with a hammer and a screwdriver. Sometimes you can get it out with just a screwdriver. Sometimes you'll need a hammer. Then what you want to do is you want to your gearbox is all loose. So what you want to do is you want to take apart the top part of your gear. You put the small screw in it. Then you want to take it out. You want to release your spring gently. And there you have it. That is your AGM sten Mark II gearbox. As you can tell, it's a version 7. When you'll first open it, there will be a lot of grease all around here. A lot of really crappy Chinese grease. Okay, so once you have cleaned all the grease off of your gears, which I already have done, obviously, you want to replace the crappy grease with some good gear grease that you can buy online. Then once you've done that, you can check your compression and use silicone spray to spray it with silicone so it would have better compression. Now here is the review of the actual gearbox and in the stock gearbox components. Now some background information is I've had this gun for about 1.5 years. Yes, 1.5 years. And this gun has held up brilliantly until not too long ago. Now, what broke on it was only like it's only like a $5 fix. Pretty much where did that piece go? The anti-reversal latch, as you can tell right here, if this could focus. The anti-reversal latch, the spring of it broke. And what that made it do is it made it so as you can tell, it cannot cycle a whole entire shot. Like, as in, if I pull it halfway, instead of locking the spring, the piston halfway, it just moves it way back forward. The anti-reversal latch is the thing that makes it stay halfway. So if I went to shoot it, and I stopped halfway on full auto, it would go all the way back, and the rest of the pressure would push the BB slightly forward. And then and the next time you shoot it, it'll shoot 2 BBs instead. So is that a problem? Yeah. Is it a big problem? Not really. Would I want to get it fixed? Obviously, yes. Okay, so as you can tell, that is not a huge problem, but it is a big problem of control. Now let's continue on with the review. So the gears, you have stock gears. It's something you'd find on a JG. It's not terrible. They're not amazing, but they're decent. They get the job done. They're good. The spring, it's a pretty powerful spring. I mean, it's something you'd find on a somewhat decent gun. I mean, it's perfect for it's the perfect FPS for me, but obviously spring not that big of a deal. Now this piece right here, the spring guide, is made out of plastic. That is a huge, huge, huge letdown right here. That is a terrible thing. They should have went with a metal one. This is an awful thing. I mean, it's not really shooting too high of FPS, or the rate of fire isn't that high, so it's not like it would break. But if you ever want to upgrade it, you'd have to spend the extra money to buy that. Now the plate right here, tappet plate. It's decent. I mean, you'd find better ones on JG. It gets the job done, but it's still sort of crappy. Obviously, as I said earlier, the grease is crappy. Another thing that I found was a huge turnoff was the shimmings, or I might not get this right, but the shimmings right here. Right here, as you can tell, these right here are plastic bushings, which, as I said earlier, it's a huge letdown If you want to go with a high speed or something, then you'd have to replace them, which obviously was a bad idea from AGM. But it does come with this rather still crappy, decent little metal plate thing that goes on the plastic bushings. Now the piston right here, it's an average piston, something you found on JG. The compression is actually, like the piston head, it's plastic, nothing special. But the way the compression works with the actual cylinder itself, the air pressure and the compression is actually pretty good. I really like it. I mean, it's better than what you would be expecting compared to all the other components. It has a metal tooth at the end. The last tooth is metal, if you could see that. And obviously you need to lubricate it, but the O-ring is actually pretty nice. Still another thing I would replace on this, if I were to upgrade this. I would also like to include that the design of this gearbox is so wonderful. I absolutely love it. You know why? Because of the way that you can easily get to the gearbox so easily, and you can do all your upgrades without having any wiring or anything in the way. The reason being is all the wiring is in the back and all the triggers in the back. So if you want to upgrade this, it's a whole separate thing. There's 2 screws to completely take and detach this from the gearbox. So once you detach this, you do not have to worry about any wiring. For me, that is a huge pro. For some other people, they don't really mind because they're good with the wiring. For me, I despise working with the wiring. Another thing that I would like to say is good about the gearbox is the wiring. It's very short, meaning that the rate of fire will be a lot better than if it were being very long and going across the whole gun. As you can tell, the wiring is very short. It's only a couple inches. So from the battery getting to the gearbox, it's a short way through, which does help with the rate of fire. In conclusion, I think the internals of the AGM Sten Mark II are not that impressive. They're not something big, they're not a huge letdown, but there are parts that are pretty big letdowns. I would honestly have to give the gearbox a 6 out of 10. The reason being is because the rate of fire and the FPS is just it's not too high, so the internal can handle it. So yes, this will last for a ton of years. But if you decide to get like an 11.1 LiPo, I honestly doubt it can withstand that. Or maybe even a higher spring, then that's when you have to upgrade the other internal components. This is a version 7 gearbox, easily upgradable. Do I suggest upgrading it? Yes, because this is a sten, and stens are pretty awesome. Just saying, that does not mean that I dislike the sten, because for $170 getting a gun this great, I would honestly give it like a 9 out of 10, because face it, it's a sten. That's the only way you can get it, and the gearbox is pretty good for the price you're paying for. And it's, if you want to get a sten, there's no other resort, and this is not a bad one.